What a way to kickstart this amazing event, which is the KTM 30 Years of Duke, where we will get a chance to ride some of the amazing new machines, including the Duke 390, the Duke 990, and the mothership, the Super Duke 1390R and R Evo, and that too at the Almeria circuit. To kick things off, we took a short spin now on the Duke 390, which apparently the Europeans tried for the very first time in the 2024 trim. And yeah, man, it continues to impress. There are a few changes compared to the version we get back home, including the tires mainly. The model here gets the Michelin Power 6 tires, which are a whole lot stickier, and that's the one thing which I really hope that KTM India fix, because the machine with stickier tires is exceptional, to say the least. Especially on the road that we were on, it was really tight, it was really winding, and I don't think the MRFs would have cut it out there. But other than that, I was also very happy to try out the taller 820mm seat height, which, as I had envisioned, is so much better for my 511 frame. The seat is still on the stiffer side, but the ergonomics now with the higher seat fit me much better. There's another small good news for us Indians, because I think the Indian variant is slightly punchier at the top end, because these guys here have to also ensure that the bike meets the A2 license. So I think the map which they're running here is slightly different. But that's the road ride done and dusted, and now we're going to have a very small gymkhana session and get ready for the amazing day that we have laid out tomorrow, where we get to ride the 990 on the road and then the Super Duke 1390R on the track. But just hope and pray for me that the weather gods are kind, because suddenly out of nowhere these rain clouds have come in, and tomorrow it's scheduled to be raining. I really hope that's not the case and we get a dry time, especially on the racetrack. I cannot believe what has happened. The weather gods were extremely kind. It stayed dry, as you can see, and we got brilliant sessions on the 2024 KTM Super Duke R and the Super Duke R Evo. And now it's very clear to me why they call it the Beast, because I have never experienced that kind of fury on a motorcycle. There have been a lot of developments in terms of the engine size has grown to 1350. You have 190 horsepower, you have 145 Newton meters of torque, you have variable valve timing, wheelie control, cornering ABS, supermoto ABS, basically anything and everything under the sun. And on the Evo you also have semi-active suspension now, which is pretty cool. I did not get to try it, but when you hit the launch control, the rear actually squats, the preload becomes zero to give you the best possible traction, to give you the best possible start. It adjusts the preload on its own, so once you set it, it will make sure that it maintains that preload. And it also has this anti-dive function. So that's what I'm saying in terms of electronics. KTM have really hit the ball out of the park. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but this is the first time ever that I have felt more comfortable and I was faster on a bike which had electronic suspension than the manual one. So the R which I rode had manual suspension, whereas the Evo had semi-active suspension. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would get my elbow down on a naked, and the Super Duke R just made that happen. It just tells you how good the suspension is, just how the bike feels overall, and I did not even touch anything. Right out of the box, whatever suspension settings they had dialed in, I felt absolutely at home, and that's saying something. even though this is the first time ever that I'm riding the Super Duke, a motorcycle that I've heard so much about and how it's a beast, it is surprisingly also very easy to ride, quite forgiving. The electronics are actually here to help you go faster. Is testimony to just the step that KTM have taken in terms of electronics and also in terms of the engine. Big thanks to KTM and KTM India for making this dream come true, and I'm equally excited now to hit the road and get my hands on the Duke 990. So yeah, I know I made a deal with the weather gods that it should not rain, at least in the morning, so I can get a few dry laps on the 1390R. And the weather gods were kind, but a deal was a deal, and when we got onto the 990, it was raining pretty much the entire time. So pardon me if you see me quivering and shivering because I am so freaking cold. But it was a hell of a ride. And just like the 1390, this one also has grown in size. Now has a 947cc engine, makes 123 horsepower, 103 Newton meters of torque, which we of course could not put to test with that much rain on offer. The engine is so sweet, it's so smooth, it's so refined, and you have such a wide torque band. I mean, that's the other thing about riding in the wet. Even though you can't really go really fast, you can't really exploit all the power, but in the corners, and we rode quite a few of them up in the mountain, really sketchy conditions, but it helps you understand the balance, the feedback from the chassis. It helps you understand how well set up the motorcycle is. The one thing which really stood out was the mechanical grip that the 990 has, because at no point I felt out of control, even when the conditions were changing all the time. The surface was changing all the time. The bike felt really sure-footed. I was really surprised also with how the Bridgestone S22s did. I'm not a big fan of those tires, as you all know, but on the road they performed really well, got up to temperatures pretty quick, and yeah, no drama whatsoever. I just remember one or two occasions where I felt the traction control kick in. Otherwise it was really smooth sailing. I mean, we had some pretty epic second, third gear wheelies, and that's what, you still had decent amount of traction from the tires to be able to do that. The only thing I felt where the 990 could improve was at first touch the throttle could be a little bit smoother. I tried all the different modes, track, performance, sport, and everywhere at first touch I felt the fueling could be a little bit better because it tends to jerk forward. The second part where I felt it could improve was the quick shifter. Shifting from first to second was always quite jerky. Thereafter, no problem. Both upshifts and downshifts are pretty smooth. But other than that, man, what a motorcycle. It's a real shame looking at the road that we were on, such a beautiful road, that we could not really ride it in anger, but at least I got to ride it. And even this headlight, for that matter, I was initially not a fan, but it's really growing on me. It mainly because it suits the character of the motorcycle. And again, just like on the 1390, KTM have made a big step with the 990. The motorcycle, if you compare it to the 890 Duke, is almost 96% all new. And yeah, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that someday in the future, hopefully in the near future, we'll have these beautiful machines on sale in India so that we can enjoy them and appreciate KTMs all the more.